Tennessee, the one-stop shop for whenever an injury happens to you in life. And the Titans are definitely dealing with a lot of injuries this morning as they lost to the Jets, the previously winless Jets, in overtime, 27-24. Randy Bullock had an opportunity to tie in overtime, and that game was potentially going to end in a tie if that field goal went through, but it didn't, and the Titans are a measly 2-2 through the first 4 games of the season. Austin Stanley, Jack Gentry in for Zach Bingham this morning. We're going to have a interesting show this morning, Jack, because there's a lot to talk about. We will go over really the 2 biggest reasons why the Titans blew it to the Jets in overtime. I'll go over my reasons. I'll get Jack's reasons. We'll ask you guys who is most to blame for the Titans' overtime loss to the Jets. I've done some revisionist analysis this morning. I went back and watched the Titans' first 3 drives of the game, and I've got some specific mistakes that I believe Todd Downing had in play calling early in that game against the Jets to only have the Titans up 9, so we'll go over that. And then we'll talk about the biggest issue with the Titans defense as they allowed Zach Wilson to get going. A lot of confidence for the rookie quarterback to get going. And it's Monday, so we're going to do a bad sales job Monday here live from the Bone and Joint Institute. But Jack, welcome in. Hope you had a good night, okay night of sleep after a disturbing game yesterday. But welcome in. We're going to have a good show.
Yeah, happy to be here. Not happy with the circumstances, obviously. The Titans came out flat yesterday and they paid for it. The best ability is availability. And they had a lot of guys that couldn't go yesterday. While you guys are coming in, because I know you guys are going to have a ton of opinions today, and we want you to share the show, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Share it, retweet it, do what you got to do. Let's grow this conversation. Let's get as many people in here as possible, because I know we're all upset with what happened yesterday. Let's grow this conversation, get as many people in as we can, and let's talk about what happened yesterday.
Group therapy session, maybe. Yes. Venter's Alley, is that what you guys used to call it?
Yeah, so it's like Printer's Alley, but when you go in, you're feeling pretty bad. Hopefully we get it all out of our system, off our chest, and we leave feeling a little bit better of where the Titans stand today. I know that's a tall task to ask after losing to what most people believe is the worst team in the NFL. But we're going to do our best. We've got a lot to go over. There's some heavy criticisms that we have on what happened yesterday with not only the offense but also on defense. And
special teams, everybody deserves it this morning. So let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by BetMGM. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry in for Zach Bingham this morning. Make sure you follow us all over social media, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. We go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Also hit us up on Instagram and TikTok. We're Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. I got to thank our sponsors before we get going officially because they make it happen for us and for you guys. RentersWarehouse.com, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. Simply go to RentersWarehouse.com to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, 1 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free. Wilson County Hyundai. Check them out for your new ride. Head out to Lebanon and WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. That is where Jack and I are live from today in Franklin, boneandjointtn.org. I don't know. The Titans could use some extra love and care with all the different injuries that happened over the course of last week and in that game yesterday. So, Jack, I'll toss it to you. How did you feel this morning? Did you feel any differently when you woke up this morning compared to how we all left Mill Creek Brewery yesterday after that post-game show? Did anything change from you emotionally?
Not really, because this year, with the adjustments that Robinson made in the offseason, bringing in stars like Bud Dupree, Julio Jones, drafting Caleb Farley, drafting Dylan Radins, none of those guys were available yesterday. And I really woke up feeling like this is the same old Titans, losing to a team that they should beat early in the season, getting themselves behind the 8 ball when you have the Colts winless heading into the weekend. They got to win against Miami.
Right.
You have a chance to beat a really bad team on the road, get an AFC win for possible playoff tiebreaks scenarios. That was a game you had to have, and they didn't have a lot of guys available. They blew it. This feels a lot like the Bengals lost last season, except I believe this one's a little worse. It stings a little more because Corey Davis is really a guy who pretty much beat the Titans with Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
The defense kept giving up splash plays. I woke up feeling today like This is the same old Titans. They lack the killer instinct that they need to have to make this run in the playoffs that we all expected in the offseason. Not seeing it so far.
Yes, a couple comments that I wanted to read. Ed asks, has Luke calmed down yet? I don't know. Luke's tweets were on fire yesterday, and I don't know if Luke has calmed down yet because he was tweeting deep into the evening some pretty fire takes. Roland says, this sucks. Everyone's making fun of me at work. Brooke says that she woke up more pissed off this morning. And you talk about the game with the Bengals last year. It feels like that. A lot of the conversation going into that game last week was always, watch out for the Bengals. Watch out for that Remember the Bengals game. Same situation. Guess what? The last time the Titans wore navy blue over white was in Cincinnati against the big. I'm a superstitious person. I don't think number 8 needs to be worn again because the punter shanked it. And right after the kicker who was wearing number 8, Michael Badgley, in week 1 was terrible. So burn number 8, burn number 10. Don't wear navy over white, the old classics. Throw it all away. But that's regardless or ridiculous and regardless of what happened yesterday. It was worse than that Bengals loss because it's earlier in the season. The Titans lost to the Bengals and went to 5-2. This team is now 2-2, and with the Colts win yesterday to get to 1-3, Texans at 1-3, Jags 0-4, obviously. There's an opportunity to really distance yourself from the rest of the division this early in the season, and they've whiffed on that opportunity by losing to the Jets. So let's get to, unless you have something to react to that.
No, it's just the classic case of the Titans not being able to put away somebody that they should put away in a situation where if you do so, you have a huge cushion in that division. The Colts and the Texans are the only teams with a win in the division. The Titans had a chance to move to 3-1 while they're sitting at 1-3. They can't take advantage, and while they do have the tiebreak early over the Colts, a lot could change. It's a 17-game season. You got to take care of business early, especially when the Colts have this really difficult 5-game stretch to open the season. The Titans failed to do it again, and I'm left feeling much worse than the Bengals lost last year.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what Ronnie says. This loss hurts hella worse than the Bengals loss. Kim with some choice words saying, "I knew it was going to be a loss, so not really mad." And I told everybody that would listen to me yesterday that game smelt funny going into it, and exactly what it is. Jamal brings up how Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins is now getting an extra nickname that he didn't want. That I'm not going to say out loud, but I'll dive into the 2 biggest reasons, in my opinion, of why the Titans blew it in overtime against the Jets. The first reason, I don't know if this is fairly obvious or not, but I just think it's true, is that the Titans kicked 3 field goals on their opening 3 possessions instead of scoring a touchdown or any time. I think if they score 1 touchdown in the first 3 drives, I think they should have scored 2 touchdowns in those first 3 drives, but 1 would have done it. And they whiffed on those opportunities to bury the Jets early. It would have been mid-second quarter. The Titans could have been up on the Jets 13 or 17-0. I don't think the Jets come back from that. But because it was just 9-0, the Jets are thinking, all we got to do is put together a drive and score a touchdown or put up some points, maybe just a field goal, and they're right there 1 score out of it. But so the Titans whiffed on that opportunity, and they forced a turnover. Christian Fulton got an interception. Now, Corey Davis slipped. I went back and rewatched everything up to that last field goal by Randy Bullock this morning before I ran out of time and had to come here. So Corey Davis slipped in that route where Christian Fulton intercepted it, but Christian Fulton was going to pick that off regardless. He basically ran the route for Corey Davis and knew exactly what was happening. Not only did Christian Fulton set them up in plus territory, the Titans got a roughing the passer penalty on the Jets that made it even easier to get down there and just ended up with a field goal. I'm going to dive deeper later in the show about the specific play calling of Todd Downing that I think ruined those situations later in the show. But that's my number 1 reason. What do you think about that? The 9-0 lead.
Yes, that's where it started. That's where all the problems started. You get down. It's hard to score touchdowns in the NFL, but against this Jets defense, which Mike Vrabel said that this defensive line was going to be the toughest D-line that the Titans would face all year. While I don't believe that, it's certainly not the most talented. 7 sacks allowed. I do believe that the problems start and end in the trenches with the Titans. The offensive line abysmal again.
Mm-hmm.
You look for some consistency out of that group, and you just can't find it. Last year, what was a big strength? Tannehill never got touched. He was sacked. He was only sacked 24 times last season. That's 7th in the NFL.
Right.
He's been sacked 17 times already this season, dead last in the league. And what's changed? You cut Dennis Kelly in the offseason. David Quesenberry looked like a 6th-round pick yesterday.
He looked like an undrafted free agent.
Yes,
He
was a 6th-round pick.
Was he really?
Yes, that's why I said.
Oh, well, he looked worse than that.
And then you bring Taylor Lewan back. You think that'll fix everything? Okay, that's fine. Taylor Lewan can't stay healthy throughout a game. Roger Stafford gets, he was already dealing with his shoulder. He went to the blue tent yesterday as well. You don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's a concussion. Ben Jones is down. He's out for a couple series yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's no continuity in this offensive line. There's no consistency with them. And, you see that with Tannehill. Tannehill, you can tell he doesn't trust that group in front of him. His clock's off. It's a half second early. And a half second in the NFL is a big difference. And it can cause a lot of problems. I just don't see him trusting that offensive line. I don't see him trusting his pocket. And they look out of sync. We spent all offseason worrying about, will the defense be adequate? Will the defense be even just slightly below average? Because if they are, the Titans are definitely a Super Bowl contender. Well, in reality, it's this offensive line who you assumed heading into the season was maybe one of the biggest strengths of this team. They are now the biggest liability on this Titans team. And right now, in the 2 losses, the offensive line has been the worst unit on this team. They are to blame more than anybody.
Yeah, and Steven says the draft picks will be offensive line, defensive line, which is frustrating because they've been.
How many will get on the field? Dylan Radins, the 2nd-round tackle, he was a healthy scratch.
Yes, yeah, no, and that's the frustrating thing is they've spent a 1st-round draft pick and a 2nd-round draft pick the last 2 years on the offensive line, and those 2 guys have been irrelevant. Overall, Jack, move your microphone closer to you a little bit. Pull the whole thing closer. Apparently, you're a little low there, but I think overall, and somebody said that 9-0 wasn't the problem on this, and 9-0 was the problem because they allowed the Jets to have hope. And once you give an inferior opponent hope, they usually thrive on that because that's all they had going into it was hope that they could keep it close early on. So 9-0 and not kicking, not scoring touchdowns and instead kicking field goals is the first thing to blame for me. The second one is inopportune chunk plays allowed by the Titans defense to the Jets, right? Because the Titans, remember, the Titans went up 17-10 and they got that 2-point conversion to go up 17-10 in the 4th quarter. What happens? One of the first plays of the next drive is a 43-yard pass interference penalty, and then another chunk play where Zach Wilson fumbles the snap, runs around like Johnny Manziel, finds Jamison Crowder inside the 5-yard line to set up 1st and goal. And then that's not the end of it. The chunk play, obviously the touchdown pass to Corey Davis, the deep ball on the first play of that drive to really, after the Titans went up 17-10, right? The Jets go down, score that touchdown via chunk plays and big penalties from the Titans defense. They score a touchdown, and now the Titans get the ball back. They fail to answer. They punt it right back to the Jets, and then boom, Corey Davis scores 24-17, just like that. So the chunk plays allowed are the second reason why the Titans allowed and blew it to the Jets yesterday. So let's go ahead and get you guys more involved in the show today and ask you guys the first question. Who is most to blame for the Titans' overtime loss to the Jets? Who is most to blame for the Titans' overtime loss to the Jets? But first, let me tell you guys about where we're at. We're live at the Bone & Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you have an injury in life, you need to get healthy. You need to know how to know who to trust, and that is the folks here at the Bone & Joint Institute. They got over a dozen doctors here that specialize in anything that can go wrong. They also streamline the process. They don't send you all over town for different steps of the way. They do it all right here, even the rehab right here. Specialists for you, boneandjointtn.org.
I want to talk a little bit about BetMGM, Austin, because if you bet on the Titans yesterday, you had a rough go.
Yeah, and they ruined my parlay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yep.
Download the BetMGM app today, though. You can win it all back on Monday night. You use promo code A to Z Sports with your first deposit, and you'll get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. It has to be your first bet, meaning if you deposit $500, you can then bet that $500. If you lose it, no big deal. You get it in free bets. If you hit that bet, congratulations, you just won $500.
Or more, whatever that bet gets you.
However much you deposit on your first deposit and use to bet your first bet on the BetMGM app. I'm telling you guys, don't walk to do it, run to do it. Download the BetMGM app today and remember that promo code A to Z Sports.
All right, so let's read these comments here because they are flying in. Who is most to blame? Jack put the question in the chat there. Who is most to blame for the Titans' overtime loss to the Jets? Ant says defensive coordinator. Kane says Corey Davis. And that one's got to hurt for Titans fans because Corey Davis goes off 4 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. And that, he definitely got his redemption. And honestly, good for Corey Davis to be able to do that in a game against the Titans. That guy works hard and had a rough go in his first 4 years with the team. Ty Kendrick says Shane Bowen, the D coordinator. Steven says the offensive line. Different Steven says Keith Carter, the offensive line coach. This is his O-line. David says the play callers. Ryan says the O-line and receivers. Tighten Up Ohio says, honestly, coaching, no doubt. Ant follows up and says Todd Bowen. So he's combining, maybe the coordinators are a celebrity couple of Shane Downing and Todd Bowen. I don't know if that's what Ant's trying to do there. Bradley says Vrabel. This team did not look prepared. Roderick says the coaching staff. Guy says that kicker for the miss. I mean, that miss would have only tied it in overtime. You would have ended in a tie if Randy Bullock hits that 49-yard field goal at the end of overtime. That still doesn't mean you win the game. You just don't lose it. You tie it,
and that goes back to the old saying, a tie is like kissing your sister. No one wants a tie. But maybe in this division, staying ahead of the loss.
The tie would have helped.
Yes.
The tie absolutely would have helped. You would have had an extra. You would have had a half game extra lead over the Colts and Texans in the division. Ramon says Mike Vrabel. Titans Kyle says the coordinators, the poor play calling, the lack of adjustments. David says the coaching. So I'm seeing a lot of coaching. Jack, I'll let you answer it. I've talked a lot already. Who is most to blame in your opinion for the Titans' loss to the Jets in overtime?
It starts up top to me. I wanted to go John Robinson here, but I don't know that I can do that because, a bunch of the guys he brought in this offseason weren't available to play. And maybe that is a big problem because you look around the league, there's plenty of rookies contributing to these teams. Monty Rice is the only guy I saw out there really yesterday, and that was on special teams.
Yeah, and Elijah Molden is not visible either after he's been burned a few times. So, yeah, they're not getting anything out of really their top 4 draft picks on offense or defense.
And this has been a trend with John Robinson, right? You sign risky guys, Vic Beasley, Jadeveon Clowney had health issues coming in. Bud Dupree now. We haven't really seen him. We haven't seen him at his best. Maybe they mismanaged his situation from the get-go, coming off an ACL tear. Maybe they worked him a little too hard against Arizona. He hasn't been available to play really since that game.
He played against Russell Wilson, and actually I thought he played pretty well. He got a big pressure on Russell Wilson late in that game to help the Titans get back.
You draft Caleb Farley to help on the outside. You bring in Janoris Jenkins, who has been very underwhelming.
Yes.
I mean, critically underwhelming. Janoris Jenkins has not played very well at all so far this season. You knew ahead of time in the offseason that your biggest weakness was O-line depth. Not only O-line depth, but what are you going to do at right tackle? So they draft Dylan Radins. He hasn't seen the field at all. All of these risky moves and risky draft picks because J-Rob, let's face it, I mean, some of these drafting Jeffrey Simmons when he was hurt, that's paid off.
Yes.
But Corey Davis they drafted when he was hurt. And you guys got into this a little bit yesterday at the game day show out at Mill Creek. A lot of these moves have been really risky, and 1 out of 5 is not going to cut it. You knew that your Super Bowl window is closing. You have a couple of years left on that.
I think it's 2 years, including this year.
And you need to improve throughout the draft. So when that window closes, it's not a complete drop off. You don't fall off a cliff with talent.
Yeah.
They haven't really done anything in the draft of note the last couple of years. For me, it starts up top and it all rolls downhill. J-Rob's the most to blame. Vrabel's got a lot of blame on his shoulders as well. Gets outcoached by a first-year head coach,
in his
Robert Saleh.
In his 4th game.
And Robert Saleh, he's a defensive-minded coach, but that offense, you mentioned big splash plays.
Yeah.
The Titans gave up 5 plays, if you include the penalty, against Crookshank, the 43-yard penalty, 5 plays of 29 yards or more.
Oh, gosh.
That's reverting back to the same defense they had last year. You think you're improved, but then, 4 games in, you're looking back, you have some of the same problems on defense you had last year. There are new problems. The offensive line can't pass protect. It starts up top, the penalties. 8 penalties for 98 yards, including a crucial delay of game penalty leading up to Randy Bullock's missed field goal in overtime.
Yep.
It's a complete mismanagement by the head coach, by the offensive coordinators, but it all starts with John Robinson. These guys he's brought in, these guys that the Titans are very reliant upon, are not available. It's just not working right now.
Yeah. Everything you said, I can't disagree with. I do want to bring up a comment and completely show this comment. Titans Legend says, a tie is not acceptable. It's either we win or lose. Scared teams want a tie. Look, Titans Legend on YouTube, no team wants a tie. But in the situation where the Titans were yesterday, a tie is better than losing. So that's a ridiculous comment there. Roderick says, when is Caleb Farley playing? So let's just go back to the Jeffrey Simmons situation. Caleb Farley and Jeffrey Simmons had surgeries in their draft process, right? A back surgery for Farley, an ACL for Simmons.
Very different surgeries.
Very different surgeries, very obviously different positions, different rehabs, different everything. But the situation is the same, that you should not have expected Caleb Farley to really do much in the first quarter of the season. But the disappointing thing is the back is not the problem.
It's a new injury.
It's a new injury. It's the shoulder. Now, I do think the back created the rust where he had a lot of rust to knock off because he hasn't played football consistently in about 2 years. Jeffrey Simmons did not play in a game until week 7. Caleb Farley played in a game week 1. So new injury,
his role wasn't very big in that game.
No, but he was. But I just think we have to remember that with Farley, that it's more than just even though he's cleared with the back injury is still affecting him because of all the rust and the situation of trying to get reacclimated to the game of football that he hasn't played much in the last 2 years.
But Titans fans don't want to hear that. You want to draft the first-round pick who can come in and contribute as soon as possible.
Yes.
And I get that Caleb Farley is very talented.
Yes, and the reason why he was available is because of his injury situation. Yes,
exactly. And so you're taking a big gamble. But at what point does John Robinson, walk away from the table? You got to know when to fold him, right? This strategy of just drafting these, you're getting good value on very talented players. But, man, these injuries.
Here's what I'll say. If you're going to gamble with your first-round draft pick with Caleb Farley, you better hit on your second-round draft pick.
Where's Dylan Radins been?
Exactly. Because what did John Robinson do 2 drafts ago or 3 drafts ago? He gambled on his first-round draft pick. He nailed his second-round draft pick with A.J. Brown. Yep. So if you're going to do that, where is Dylan Radins? What has he seen in Dylan Radins? This offensive line is banged up and bad. Both are not good situations. And Dylan Radins is a healthy scratch, not even playing the position that he was drafted to be. So the whole point why we're talking about this is because Jack puts most of the blame on John Robinson for losing this game to the Jets.
And not to mention, you have a 4th-round draft pick in Des Fitzpatrick that really wasn't even considered to be brought up this week.
He's so far away.
The only wide receiver you take in this draft, Racey McMath, you're not even considering to bring up in a week where you're without your top 2 receivers. It's just these drafts are becoming more and more frustrating because you know that the Titans core is there. You know that they're so close to taking that next step. You need some reinforcements throughout the draft. You're seeing Trevon Diggs with the Cowboys leading the NFL in interceptions. Caleb Farley, you're not getting anything out of right now at this point, and you were right. You're not going to. Caleb Farley's not going to jump in week 1 and make an immediate impact.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in the season, whatever we get from Caleb Farley, it is kind of a bonus. I'm not expecting
but I wasn't like going into it. I think I had a better understanding, or I was trying to have a more long-term view of Caleb Farley, and I think I've been consistent on that. The Dylan Radins pick was terrible.
Yes, no doubt.
So more comments that I wanted to read too. Somebody asked, can we explain why Christian Fulton was playing in the slot yesterday?
Chris Jackson went down
because Chris Jackson got hurt. Absolutely. And you bring how many? What was the stat, Jack? The Titans gave up how many plays yesterday? 29 yards or more.
So 4 plays of 29 yards or more, but you add in that 43-yard pass interference against Dan Cruikshank, and that's 5. And that's huge splash plays that all led to scores. Keelan Cole, who, without Elijah Moore available, they had to bring Keelan Moore in, and he was actually an integral part of the offense.
Keelan Cole is a good player and was just lost in Jacksonville for a few years. Keelan Cole made plays. I wanted the Titans to go after Keelan Cole in free agency.
A 54-yard catch on 3rd and 6. In the gotta-have-it situations yesterday for this defense, they didn't have it.
Right.
3rd and 6, Keelan Cole gets loose for 54 yards, and that leads to a touchdown. Overtime, Keelan Cole, again, 29-yard catch, sets up that game-winning field goal. Corey Davis obviously got loose a couple times for the 53-yard touchdown pass and a big play with a 30-yard catch early to lead to the Jets' first touchdown.
Yep.
Some of the same problems are resurfacing, and on top of that, you're getting new problems, and that can't happen with this roster.
Yeah.
Which I think everyone would agree. Aside from yesterday, you're missing a couple really, really big playmakers. Is it an improved roster? It really, from top to bottom, that roster improved from last year to this year. But in key spots, at right tackle, you don't have it. At wide receiver, you didn't have it yesterday. Janoris Jenkins in the secondary didn't have it yesterday.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking at a comment. Rhett has a long comment on Facebook, so I'm going to try to read as much as I can. I can't. I'm not going to be able to show everything up on the screen because it's that long of a comment. J-Rob has actually assembled a very talented squad. Vrabel and his coordinators have shown massive issues and that they don't learn from anything. They also make it so easy on the other team knowing what's coming. At this level, bang it out is so dumb. And Vrabel got in trouble with it so much. Got in trouble with so much talent out of the game. A lot harder for that plan to work with that talent deficient extinguished. Now some select players have really been screwing the team in the red zone. It's been laughable. So my person who I blame the most is Mike Vrabel because, one, he's the person who hired the coordinators. Shane Bowen and Todd Downing are his hires. Second, the head coach is in charge of game management decisions. And there were several game management decisions that I thought Mike Vrabel messed up yesterday. He said in his press conference, the 3rd and 1 play on the Titans' second possession, 3rd and 1 from the 11-yard line, I believe it was, the snap over the head of Ryan Tannehill.
Killer.
So Mike Vrabel, he was asked specifically about the situation. So I'm not blaming Mike Vrabel for making an excuse. He was simply answering a question, which I appreciate. It adds context. But Mike Vrabel said that on that Derrick Henry run on 2nd down, the Titans thought the spot was for a 1st down. Then, therefore, they took Derrick Henry out of the game to give him a blow on 1st and 10 at the 11. So that's why McNichols was in. Then the referee moved the ball back to a 3rd and short. McNichols was already in there. The play clock had run down too far. They could make an adjustment, and so therefore the mistake happened. I don't care. Adapt. Whenever you see the situation happen where, oh crap, now it's 3rd and 1, don't just be like, dang, and don't do anything about it. Put Ryan Tannehill under center and sneak it like you did earlier in the game, or because you knew your backup center was in this situation. There have been now multiple times in the red zone alone, multiple times in the red zone where Aaron Brewer has been in for Ben Jones and has snapped it over the head of Ryan Tannehill or Derrick Henry.
The King Cat situation last year.
Yes.
You're right.
And so, again, we need to recognize now, don't let it happen again. When you're in the red zone and Aaron Brewer is snapping, go under center. Don't let that happen a 3rd time. That is terrible management of your roster if you let that happen a 3rd time. Another mismanagement of Mike Vrabel was the delay of game in overtime. I don't care what the reason is. It was an incomplete pass. Mike Vrabel, again, was asked about that and said the referees were spotting it slowly. Well, if the refs are spotting it slowly, adjust to it because that was in overtime. You've already been burned once by the refs spotting it slowly. Hurry up. Go faster. You cannot allow for a delay of game on a stopped clock after an incomplete pass in overtime on 3rd and 5. Because maybe, just maybe, Randy Bullock hits that field goal, or you convert the 3rd and 5 instead of a 3rd and 10. It's like, so Mike Vrabel is who I blame the most.
And that's fair. That's completely and totally fair. Vrabel got testy on Friday, and that threw me through a bit of a loop because you got the Jets, and you saw it in a question that Jim Wyatt asked him. It was supposed to be a fun question. What do you think about Brady and Belichick? And I get it. Vrabel's not a guy who wants to look outside, and Vrabel doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have time to talk about that. But he got a little testy, and I think that was a point where Vrabel knew that, man, whether it was this week in practice, I wasn't able to be out there. But whether it was this week in practice, they looked bad, or Vrabel knew he was really up against it this week in game plan. Not a whole lot of weapons to work with on offense. Some problems to fix on defense, but it's really hard to mask those problems with a pass rush.
Yeah,
it's not out there. There's not available. Harold Landry, by the way, stood out again. He has been one of the most improved players alongside Christian Fulton. But as a whole, it's a defense that continues to give up the big plays. Zach Wilson, a mobile quarterback, once again exposed the Titans. After going up against Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, you'd figure they'd have a better game plan on how to defend him. He got loose and made some plays outside of the pocket, which he did in college, which is the reason the Jets took him in the draft. To me, it's on Vrabel as much as it is on John Robinson to me. But the players are not out of this either. There's a lot of guys on that roster who are not playing up to their ability. Taylor Lewan's making too much money to stink this badly.
And another Taylor Lewan with 2 penalties in the first half. The illegal hands to the face ruined the opportunity to get points at the end of the first half there. All right, I want to ask this question because I just talked about issues and mistakes in Mike Vrabel's management of the game. I want to ask this question because I don't necessarily have a problem, but I want to hear what you guys think about it and want to at least have the discussion of the Titans not going for the 2-point conversion to win the game before overtime, right? Because Cam Batson catches that touchdown, if my memory serves correct, 20 seconds or less on the clock, because I know the Jets had the one snap where they need it with 13 seconds. But what do we think about Mike Vrabel not going for the 2-point conversion to try to win the game? That would have been 25-24 and overtime when they've been good in 2-point conversions so far this year. So I want to ask that question. What do you guys think of that? But real quick, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness. 1 15-minute workout equals 5 or more hours in the weight room. How is that possible? Mandu.com. It's full body electronic muscle stimulation. So they're putting all of that stress, all of that work on your muscles, not on your joints, not on those old injuries, but really working to build functional strength, muscle tone, and muscle mass while targeting that hard-to-burn body fat. Mandu can help you achieve your fitness goals, whatever it might be. Maybe it's completely transform your body. Maybe it's just build more muscle, get stronger. Maybe it's shred that last little bit of fat that you can't get off. Mandu can help you at mandu.com. Your first workout's free. And if you tell them A to Z Sports sent you, they'll take off $100 on your first month when you sign up at mandu.com.
BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. The variety, the selection is unmatched. The interface is clean, and it's easy to find what you want to bet on. You got a big Monday night game between the Raiders and the Chargers tonight. Download the BetMGM app so you can go bet it. But use promo code A to Z Sports. Remember to do that with your first deposit and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. If you deposit $1,000, you'll have the opportunity to bet that entire balance. And if you win, congratulations, that money is yours. If you lose, don't worry about it. You get it all back in free bets. So remember to use the promo code A to Z Sports while you're downloading the BetMGM app. And if you win, you get the money. If you lose, it's all right. You'll get it all back in free bets. Make sure to use promo code A to Z Sports on the BetMGM app.
All right, so I want to have the conversation. I don't necessarily have a problem with the decision to kick the extra point to go to overtime for the Titans, but I just want to know what you guys thought. Should the Titans have gone for 2 at the end of the game to win? Because the opportunity was right there, Jack. What's your opinion? Then I'll read some.
No, I didn't have a problem with the decision. The Titans heading into that game had won 6 straight in overtime. They're built for overtime. Derrick Henry was really just bludgeoning that Jets defense. He finished with over 150 yards rushing. That's a team that's a Titans team and an offensive line that has been known to really wear down defenses. But however, in overtime rules, It's really about who wins that coin toss. It really is. I don't know the percentages
But
off
it,
my
but
head.
it also wasn't because the Titans got stopped. Like,
Yeah.
like in both overtimes the Titans have played, their offense has gotten a chance to win the game.
But my point is the more talented roster you would think as the game goes along in overtime has a better shot to win.
Yeah.
And while I thought that the wrong call was made in Seattle to not go for two, because in my opinion, you go for two when you're on the road in a hostile environment against a really good team who you think has the momentum heading into overtime, or who has the better roster heading into overtime.
Yeah.
I thought that was the case in Seattle. Now with the Jets, an inferior roster with an inferior head coach, a rookie quarterback, I think you let that game play out. I think I believe Vrabel made the right choice there. Hindsight's obviously 2020.
Sure.
And the Titans have the best running back in the NFL to just shove it in his gut and let him get 2 yards and win the game towards the end of regulation. But in that circumstance, I didn't think it was the right idea. I thought that kicking it was the right move. It just these are weird fluky situations in overtime.
Right.
And, the Titans got burned.
So 16 seconds. And I think that's important because if there's I don't think 16 seconds is enough time for Zach Wilson to do anything because the Jets got the ball with 13 seconds left because of the kickoff play. So I do think I wouldn't have hated going for two. I guess what I'm saying is I would be fine with either decision that was made.
But if the Titans had lost going for two,
knowing
what you know about the Titans and the Jets, the coaching staffs and the rosters, Vrabel would be getting crushed today.
But I think what I'm trying to say here, and I understand it's hindsight, and I'm saying this after I know the result of the game where they lost anyway. I truly think, because I'm fine with the extra point, I think I would have been fine for going for two. I think I probably would have liked going for two better. Just because the Titans have been good at 2-point conversion this season. They've been better at 2-point conversions than they have extra points because of the Michael Badgley situation.
Well, so the Titans, if you look at the numbers, and I get it, no Titans fans want to look at the numbers today. They saw what they saw yesterday. That was it. The Titans got beat by the Jets. But if you look at the numbers, the Titans were the better team yesterday. They outgained the Jets 430 to 355. They ran 33 more plays on offense, so the Jets defense was out there all day long. Titans controlled time of possession 40 minutes to 30 minutes.
Right.
The Jets, in all reality, had to have been really tired towards the end of that. Jets defense had to have been really tired. The Titans couldn't capitalize on their chance in overtime.
And the Titans just went on a drive, 11 plays, 74 yards in a minute 53 to score that touchdown before the potential 2-point conversion.
It was a defense that let the Titans down in overtime, which you would think it would.
But
be
the defense eventually got the stop, and then the Titans' offense couldn't finish.
Yeah, well, they got the stop, but after the 3rd and 2 that Keenan Cole picked up 29 yards on to set the Jets up in field goal range.
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
They bent and didn't break, but at the same time, that was a situation where they didn't even need to bend.
Right. I'm with you. So Bobby says, nah, in my opinion, prologuing the game and talent should win out. The Titans just got beat.
I'm with Bobby.
Again, Jonas says the Titans should have gone for it. Louis is saying that I'm on the fence. I'm not on the fence. I'm just trying to be honest. I think in that situation, I was fine with kicking the field goal, but I definitely was okay and curious to see if they would have gone for two because of Tannehill in the shotgun with Derrick Henry to his side for a 2-point conversion is very dangerous. The Titans are really good in that situation. If Roger Saffold is at left guard, I think they go for it.
Really? Okay. Well, see, that's a different conversation because Sam Brother had to fill in for him. But when you have the better team and you've done more on offense than the Jets throughout the day, do you really want the game to come down to one play at the end of regulation? Are you
where I control it? If I'm on offense, sure.
With the better team, knowing that you're a team
you're 2 yards away.
You're
2 yards away, and you have a guy. I don't know how many rushing yards Derrick Henry had at the end of regulation because he stacked up a handful in overtime as well.
He finished with 33 carries, 157 yards. He averaged 4.8 yards per carry.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how many yards he had in overtime. But regardless, he had he
was busy.
He had 130 plus yards in regulation. I think do something because we have seen this Titans offense several times put defenses in a really tough decision-making situation with Tannehill in a shotgun and Derrick Henry to his side. They did it early in the game. You do an RPO where it could be a hand to Derrick Henry, a Tannehill run, or
But
Tannehill
also,
keeps it.
You got to remember, this is an offense that struggled to get the ball in the end zone all day long. They didn't have their weapons. They didn't have A.J. Brown or Julio Jones on the outside. Furtzer didn't look like himself yesterday. Everyone knows that ball's probably going
but that's
to
my
Derrick
thought
Henry.
is like you got Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill on the 2-yard line to win the game. And I think I like their odds. I trust Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry in that situation to gain 2 yards. And I trust Tannehill's decision-making, whether to give it to Henry or to keep, or whether once he keeps, whether he needs to run it in or throw it, but like he did to Pruitt on the first 2-point conversion earlier in the day. So I wanted to have the conversation because I think people on both sides, and I was just curious to see where people were at with it overall. But look, again, I was fine with kicking. They still had an opportunity to try to go win the game regardless.
Maybe in Arthur Smith's offense, that decision would have been made. Maybe Todd Downing, for whatever reason, when he gets close to when he gets inside the 10-yard line, when he gets inside the red zone, when his offense does, it just seems to sputter at times. And maybe Vrabel just didn't trust what Downing had in his bag.
Sure, maybe so. All right, A to Z Sports here live on this Monday from the Bone and Joint Institute. I did some research. I went back this morning and I watched the Titans' first 3 drives that ended with the Titans up 9-0. Okay, so I've got my issues. Okay.
Download the BetMGM app today. I know we cut out for a second, guys. Hang with us. We should have everything fixed right now. But anyways, back to BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Use promo code A to Z Sports. And on your first deposit, you'll have a chance to, with your first bet all of the money that you deposit. That's the way to do it. That's the right strategy to do it. Deposit 100, whatever you feel like, 200, 300, 400, up to $1,000. Deposit that money, and you bet it with your first bet. If you win, you'll get all of the winnings. All of that money will be put right into your account, so you'll double your money. Or if you lose, don't worry about it. You get it all back in free bets. But you can only do that if you use promo code A to Z Sports after you download the BetMGM app.
Yeah, I don't know. Just whatever it was. The phone got kicked out. So I don't know what happened there, but we are back. Appreciate that. Alex is looking awesome, taking over the IT issues like a champ. Zach makes way too much with the IT stuff. I know how to fix the problems. It's just Zach does it while I stall, typically. All right,
I like Justin's comment. Who is the most to blame for the A to Z technical issue?
I just technology.
Technology.
That's whenever technology fails us all at times. All right, so here's another lost blackout, is what Kendall said. I think that happened the last time the Titans lost the game. I don't really know why. But anyway, so Jack, I went through and rewatched the first 3 drives of the Titans' offensive play calling in that game. And situational play calling. I know I'm getting really specific and nuanced, but you ask Mike Vrabel, football is a situational game, right? You've heard all coaches talk about how football is so situational. And situational play calling in the red zone was terrible yesterday, and that's the reason why the Titans were only up 9-0. So I'll put aside the first drive. The first drive when the Titans going up 3-0, really not a lot that was bad there. That was a okay way to. It's only the first time the Titans didn't go 3-and-out to start a game, so I have no problem with what happened on that first drive. The second drive is where it started. So I mentioned this already earlier in the show. 3rd and 1 on the 11, a shotgun snap over the head of Tannehill. Henry wasn't even in the game. Vrabel said yesterday after the game that it was because the ref spot was late. Titans thought it was a first down. I don't care. That's an excuse. Adapt and execute the play that was called.
It was the first quarter. You had your timeouts.
Yes. 3rd and 1 at the 11. Go score. Do something. Change it. Let Tannehill trust your quarterback and your players to take advantage of the situation and know the down and distance and go do it. Go execute the play. They did not. The play. We don't even know what the play call was because the snap went over the head of Ryan Tannehill. So the third drive, this is the one that I think really frustrated me more. 3rd down drive, the Titans were up 6-0. This was right after the Christian Fulton interception and after Tannehill had a roughing the passer penalty that put the Titans in a good situation. So Derrick Henry had just gained 4 yards on 1st and 10. So it was 2nd and 6 from the 10-yard line. He just got those first 4 yards. Why not give it to Derrick Henry again? On 2nd and 6 from the 10, give it to Derrick Henry again. You're at the 10-yard line. Instead, they throw a back shoulder fade to NWI that had 0 chance of being caught. I believe it actually hit the Jets defender in the back or in the back of the helmet. And so now, guess what? 3rd and 6, you're passing. What happened on 3rd down after that? 3rd and 6, sack. Go figure, right? So set yourself up. And this is what I also tweeted. I think there should be a new rule, a new play calling rule this season. Jack, I don't know if you remember this. Last year for Arthur Smith, I had a play calling rule for the Titans last year. Last year it was if Derrick Henry gains 5 or more yards on 1st and 10, hand it off again. If he gained 5 or more yards on 1st and 10, hand it off.
You're already on schedule. You're ahead of the chains.
So here's my new rule. If you are in the high red zone, which the Titans were at the 11 and the 10-yard line in those two situations, the high red zone, and you're ahead of the sticks, give the ball to Derrick Henry. If you're ahead of the chains in the high red zone, give it to Derrick Henry. Don't overthink it, especially when you don't have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the field. Give it to Derrick Henry because overthinking it creates 3rd and passing situations, and you know your offensive line is banged up and not very good right now. So you want to avoid 3rd and passing situations. So on 2nd and 6, give it to Derrick Henry. You're at the 10-yard line. That's my new rule for this season.
And you know what we didn't see a whole lot of yesterday that worked very well in Seattle? Play action. Now, that's probably because the offensive line couldn't hold up for more than a second and a half yesterday.
Yes.
I don't think that, rolling Tannehill out in play action, whatever it may be, would have worked because he had no time to throw in general yesterday. You fake a handoff, and boom, the defensive line is in your face. Quinnen Williams right up the middle. And you mentioned not having your playmakers. That was a theme yesterday on 3rd down. The Titans struggled to move the chains when they needed to because they didn't really have a go-to guy. It seemed like Tannehill tried to force Josh Reynolds into that role. And, while he did make a couple plays here and there, he's no Julio Jones or A.J. Brown. He's not even fully healthy. You see him go down grabbing his knee. It looked like he was going to leave the game.
Yep.
Titans go 5 for 19 on 3rd down. That's barely over 20% for you math majors.
Yep.
Not having a go-to guy, not being ahead of the chains, going away from the run when the run was working, not being able to run play action. All of these things contributed to really just a weird, bumpy, clunky offensive game plan. And you saw that in Todd Downing's play calls, especially in the red zone when it mattered.
Right. All right. So Bobby has fallen into my trap, just like I was hoping somebody would do this morning. So again, I'll restate my red zone rule. New Titans play calling rule for me this season. If the Titans are ahead of the sticks in the high red zone, Give it to Derrick Henry. Don't overthink it. The Titans need to avoid third and passing situations as much as possible, especially in the red zone. So Bobby, who fell into my trap that I was hoping somebody would do this, Bobby says, weren't you just telling them to ease Derrick Henry's workload last week? Yes, I was, Bobby. But when you're trying to score touchdowns in the first quarter or the second quarter, you give it to Derrick Henry. Because, Bobby, if the Titans gave it to Derrick Henry on 2nd and 6, maybe they can score a touchdown at some point to finish that drive. Then maybe they're up 13-0 or 17-0 in those situations. If you give it to Derrick Henry early, you don't have to give it or ride the Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter or overtime, therefore easing his workload late in the game. So, Bobby, I appreciate you falling into my trap and to letting me explain that.
And that was something that that they were talking about in meetings this week is how do we win this game without running Derrick Henry into the ground again? Well, another overtime game, 33 carries with 2 catches as well. That's 35 touches. He was tackled 35 times.
I'm gonna get my calculator
34
out.
times. He scored 1 touchdown.
So 35 touches, right?
35 touches.
So he had 92 touches going into this game. So that's 127 touches.
You're looking over 30 touches per game.
Nearly 32 touches per game.
That is not the recipe early in the season for the Titans. They need Derrick Henry fresh towards the end of the season. And what you also need is that cushion so you can afford to rest the guys for a game or two if they need it late in the season.
So Derrick Henry going into yesterday's game was on pace for 521 touches. He is now on pace for nearly 540 touches.
That's never been done.
It might have. Larry Johnson for the Chiefs back in like 2000.
540 touches?
I'm going to Google Larry Johnson's stats, and you're going to be shocked at how much that guy touched the ball.
But for Derrick Henry, who led the league in rushes and who had 2,000 yards on the ground last year, who's already taken a beating the last couple of years because the Titans have force-fed him. Obviously, you get the ball in the hands of your best player, but to beat the Jets, 35 touches in a week where you knew they had to take it a little easy on him, you go to overtime. Derrick Henry, early in the season, we're talking about load management with Julio Jones and all these guys.
Yeah.
And it's hard to win in the NFL managing anybody's load.
Right.
You're going to have to really relax and ease up on Derrick Henry's touches, and it's against Jacksonville this week.
Yes.
Jacksonville with all the distractions in the world, with Urban Meyer out at bars in Columbus.
Oh, God.
Doing all kinds of things.
I was wondering if that would pop up today on the show.
Derrick Henry's going to have to be efficient and hopefully, a sub-20 carry game next week. You got to get him back on track. You've got to keep his legs as fresh as you can. 17-game schedule for the first time in NFL history. And Derrick Henry's already behind the 8 ball.
All right, so, Jack, you bring up a great point because I thought Larry Johnson had 500 touches. Larry Johnson in 2006 had 457 touches that year. Now, that's in 16 games, right? So there's an extra game, which makes this a little more difficult. But Larry Johnson in 2006, he had 416 carries and 41 receptions. The most touches in a season in the NFL history, James Wilder had 492 in 1984. I can't remember if 1984 had 14 games or 16 games, but third on this list, Eddie George in 2000 had 453 touches.
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Right. So Derrick Henry is on pace to be the only player in NFL history to have over 500 touches in a season.
That's not the recipe for Derrick Henry. You need him as fresh as you can in November, December, January to really be able to put the Titans on his back in these big games, rely on him. There's going to be some tough run-Ds down the line that the Titans are going to have to play.
Rams?
The next 5 weeks after the Jags. That's all going to be very difficult.
Chiefs, Bills, Chiefs, Colts, Rams, Saints are a good defensive team up front too. So, Derrick Henry's on a scary pace.
But how do you win without Julio Jones and A.J. Brown?
With Derrick Henry. And again, that's my point. All of this that Bobby brought up, the Titans need to be aware of the crazy workload that Derrick Henry has. But in the first half of games, use him to create separation. Use him to get that lead so you don't have to rely on him in the fourth quarter or overtime, which they've now had to do twice.
Yeah, it goes back to that cushion. You want to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat with already a multi-game lead in the division. So you have like they did against the Saints last season. Or was it 2 seasons ago, where you had the opportunity to rest him
in a game that meant nothing. Yeah.
Yes, and God forbid it comes down to the Titans. Need Derrick Henry to win in a win in your in game in Week 18. No rest throughout the season. It's tough, and you really wanted to manage his load early as much as possible because you need your best players to win games. We saw that this Sunday. Without Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, they have no other option than to go to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
That makes it tougher on Henry. That makes it tougher on the Titans to be fresh late in the season, especially when you use them this much and still can't come away with a win.
Yeah. So, Dom says, I hate to be so negative, but this loss is way worse than the Bengals loss last year. Honestly, don't see it. The Titans easily coming back from this. Something has to change. Not going to make the playoffs continue with these schemes. I will say the Titans, I still think will make the playoffs because of the division. The Colts got their first win yesterday, and that, unfortunately, the Titans could have been a full 2 games ahead. Now they're just got that 1 game ahead. They do have the tiebreaker. But the Colts game in Week 8 is a massive game because the Titans can really help themselves out a lot in tie-breaking. But I think the Titans are still going to make the playoffs. I still think they win the division. But it's Week 4, and they missed a great opportunity to get to 3-1 and to try to separate themselves. But
it feels like the Titans know that, though. It feels like that they've gotten complacent, and they know that the division is theirs for the taking.
Maybe.
And maybe they're a little more relaxed. Maybe they're so confident that, the Colts are down and out. Quentin Nelson's on IR. Carson Wentz can barely walk. Maybe they know that, this is a division that they will have to lose. The Colts will not be able to win this division. The Titans will have to lose it. Right. And they've gotten too comfortable, and you see the effects and the results of that yesterday.
Yeah, real quick, I do want to get to this topic because we teased it earlier. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I am curious of what you guys think. What is the biggest issue with the Titans defense versus the Jets? What's the biggest issue with the Titans defense versus the Jets? We're not going to spend a ton of time on this because we're already approaching an hour here on the show. I think we've had a great show and a lot of great conversation and engagement from you guys in this. Jack Gentry again in for Zach Bingham this morning. So real quick, want to know the answer to that question. What was the biggest issue for the Titans defense against the Jets yesterday? But again, let me remind you of Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to find that next ride for you. Let Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon at Wilson County Hyundai set you up with your new car, and the right ride for you right there, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Jack, I'll let you start. What was the biggest issue with the Titans defense versus the Jets?
Jackrabbit Jenkins. If you want to name one specific player, Janoris Jenkins looked more like the tortoise than the hare yesterday, or the jackrabbit yesterday.
Well played.
And that's a big problem because you hear, Janoris Jenkins had this great camp. He had a great training camp. He's a mentor to guys like Caleb Farley. He's helped Christian Fulton grow. But he hasn't done anything of substance this season. You see him getting torched by Corey Davis yesterday. He was a big letdown against the Cardinals. He slipped in circumstances where you didn't need him to slip. You had to have him on his feet. He was on the ground. In order for the Titans defense to be able to play up to their potential, we know this pass rush is hamstrung. We know that they have guys missing, and even if they're healthy, they're still maybe a slightly below average pass rush unit. So you need the secondary to be on their P's and Q's. Janoris Jenkins has not played up to his ability. He has not played up to the hype. They were desperate to find a corner in the offseason. Without Caleb Farley, that means they need Janoris Jenkins to perform even more. He has not done that. Janoris Jenkins has been the biggest letdown on this Titans defense so far.
Yeah, I think I'm going to read some comments now. A lot of Sean says busted coverage. Deborah says could not get to the quarterback. Like, Zach Wilson is a good athlete, and the Titans have played 3 really impressive athletes at quarterback and Carson Wentz. I mean, like Kyler Murray, the Cardinals are legit guys. I mean, they just beat the Rams yesterday. They look good doing it. We all know that Russell Wilson is really difficult to sack. And Zach Wilson can do a lot of things with his legs. He looked like he was at BYU yesterday. That's how he played. That's why he was the 2nd overall draft pick. So Deborah's right, though. He was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL going into yesterday. Titans got him once. Mm-hmm. So nobody else had a problem getting in, but the Titans sure did. And Harold Landry was the only guy who was really able to get home.
You know who was missing to me yesterday was Jeff Simmons. I was looking for a big play. Autry played okay. He made a couple big tackles when he needed to.
Yeah.
Landry was all over the place. But again, they're really thin on defense. But
the
to counter
Rashad
that
Weaver
point,
injury hurts because it
yes.
just makes it more thin because Bud Dupree is unavailable.
But
to quote Mike Vrabel.
again, the Titans defense played 33 less snaps than the Jets. They had to be semi-fresh. And even when you're thin, the Jets offense is only on the field for 29 minutes.
Yeah.
Got to make plays when you're out there.
Yeah.
You got to stop them on third down. They didn't do that. Jets were 6 of 14 on third down. Another bad week on a money down where you had to have it. They didn't perform. They allowed big plays in big situations.
Here's what the biggest issue to me is, and I put it right there up on the screen. We're looking at a 3rd and 3, and Luke was all over this yesterday, and Mike Vrabel told Luke a couple weeks ago that they don't coach to play behind the sticks on third down. I see 5 Titans, and Kevin Byard is playing his position, right? But I see 4 Titans who are playing behind the sticks on 3rd and 3.
Jenkins is 9 yards away.
Not only are they off and behind the sticks, they're several yards behind the sticks. It's so bad. And this was an easy conversion down to set up 1st and goal for the Jets. Now, eventually this drive ended in a field goal, which if the Titans played appropriately on this play, maybe it would have just been a longer field goal. But this problem is all over the place. And that's my biggest issue is I don't know why they are afraid to get up in somebody's face and play good press man. Not what Elijah Molden did against Christian Kirk. Not overly aggressive,
yes.
but get up there and at least shadow. I'm not saying punch and lunge at the receiver to jam off the line, but just be in their face.
Throw off timing, bump them, and that's what a big strength of Jenkins
I don't
was.
even think they need to. They don't like. I'm not even like calling for a physicality. Just get up there, right? Because you can get up there and shadow and just apply a little bit of pressure to not give Zach Wilson or any of the quarterbacks an easy look of what you're going to be doing.
I agree. Off-ball coverage has been a topic. And
for multiple years now.
And that doesn't fall on the secondary. That, in that circumstance, falls on Shane Bowen in this scheme. So obviously Bowen's to blame here as well. Against Jets receivers, too. We aren't talking about the Cardinals in week 4. We're talking about the Jets wide receivers, Corey Davis, who the Titans have practiced against for the entirety of his career.
Yep.
Then you have Keelan Cole and Jamison Crowder.
Keelan Cole they've seen for years when he was in Jacksonville, so they know exactly what to expect.
These guys are not world beaters. You should be able to get up in them. And for whatever reason, Shane Bowen didn't see that, and Shane Bowen felt like, off-ball coverage was the way to go. Obviously came back to bite them. They were not only able to hit these chunk plays down the field like we've talked about, but it was the short intermediate routes that they were also hitting on. With cornerbacks, coming up to make the tackle after being 3 yards away from the catch.
Yep. Dustin says that's a coaching issue. I'm sure we will talk about coaching quite a bit. And Brent says that Jenkins actually graded out worse than Jonathan Joseph. Look, I've seen Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins getting called multiple new nicknames. One is Jackass Jenkins.
Yeah,
another is Janoris Joseph. I saw. That's a really rough nickname there for Jackrabbit. If you want to be called Jackrabbit, you got to play well. You're just applying pressure on yourself by forcing everybody to call you Jackrabbit. And when you're asked about it and you say, my name's not Janoris, it's Jackrabbit, and you can call me Jackrabbit or Rabbit, then you got to play good. You can't just Golden Tate had to be good at something because of his parents' name that he gave him. Now that was the name that his parents gave him, but Golden Tate had to be good because of his name. Jackrabbit is changing his name from Janoris to Jackrabbit. He has to be good, and he has not been good through 4 games.
And I want to address this comment in Big Gentry. How are you blaming the coaches for this? Isn't this a player confidence thing? Why aren't the players confident? Because maybe Shane Bowen puts them in situations where they aren't able to succeed. They aren't able to use their strengths. Janoris Jenkins, heading into this season, he's been known for being able to play physical on the line of scrimmage, bump and run defense. Playing off the ball is not something that goes well with Janoris Jenkins' skill set. So maybe the player confidence issue is because they're getting put in unfamiliar situations by a coaching staff who obviously doesn't know how to use Janoris Jenkins' strengths to their advantage. And so some of that definitely falls on Shane Bowen. But also, Janoris Jenkins is the one out there playing.
Yep.
Shane Bowen doesn't have a helmet on. He doesn't have pads on. He can only call the plays. Janoris Jenkins in that secondary has to be able to execute. And yesterday, they just weren't able to do that.
Yeah. Another comment from Bobby says also, what's with the decision to move Fulton inside? He's an outside corner. Molden would have matched up perfectly with Crowder in the slot. Look, Elijah Molden, if you want to talk about confidence, I think his has been shot a little bit because of the plays he gave up in week 1 and week 2. Yeah. Chris Jackson got injured in the game and was unavailable. So at that time, the best decision the Titans could have made was to move Christian Fulton inside and bring on Breon Borders to play the outside. You're not taking as big of a hit by bringing Breon Borders in and Fulton moving inside. Now, it sucks because ideally you want Fulton, who's your best corner, to play outside, and you would like to have Chris Jackson and Elijah Molden, but Elijah Molden just isn't ready yet.
Yeah, and Breon Borders is good in small doses, but you do not want to thrust him into a main role. We saw that last year at times when the Titans were beat up in the secondary and Borders had to come in. He played well in 2 snaps last week.
And Breon Borders had a really good preseason camp, and I like Breon Borders a lot, but yesterday didn't work out very well because Zach Wilson had a lot of confidence moving into that. All right, Jack, let's go ahead and get to our bad sales job segment. We do this every Monday, bad sales job here at the end of the show. But real quick, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse and renterswarehouse.com. They are the professional landlords in the Nashville area. Renters Warehouse is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There's so many different ways you can use them to your benefit, creating extra cash flows for you and your family, using Rent Estate to create long-term equity, which means long-term wealth, which means that retirement plan is already getting started with your Rent Estate business at renterswarehouse.com.
BetMGM, guys, download the BetMGM app today, right after the show ends. Download that app, use promo code A to Z Sports, again, ATOZ Sports, and on your first deposit, you'll get a risk-free bet up to $1,000, meaning however many dollars you decide to put in that account. If you choose to bet that with your first bet, this is only first bet offer. You whatever you win on or whatever you place as your first bet, you win it, you get that money, put it into your account. So if you put $100 and you bet it on your first bet, you'll win $100 if you hit that bet. If you lose that bet, no big deal. You'll get it back in free play. So BetMGM has your back. Make sure to download that app, the BetMGM app today, and use promo code A to Z Sports with your first deposit.
All right, time for bad sales job, where Jack and I each give each other a situation, a bad sale to make.
I'm going to win this week because I have an impossible sales job for you.
Okay. Come out of the gate swinging. That's fine. Real quick, Louis says it's National Taco Day. Sell me a taco. Funny comment. I didn't realize it's National Taco Day, but maybe National Taco Day will make Titans fans feel better because tacos make everybody happier.
That's right.
All right, since you're so confident, let's hear it. Let's hear your bad sales job to me.
Sell me on why Taylor Lewan's best football is ahead of him. Let me know when you're ready.
Or do you have a stopwatch?
I've got a clock.
Okay, you've got a clock ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You started on my go.
I got you.
Taylor Lewan's best football is ahead of him for 2 simple reasons. In the NFL, offensive linemen can play well into their 30s. Lewan is just 30 years old. He's got time left in the tank. Number 2 is usually the second year after the ACL recovery is the better year. Jack Conklin went through the same thing. The first year after the ACL was not good. The second year, very good. Got a big contract with the Browns. Lewan can do the same thing. It won't be in Tennessee, though.
Wow. I feel like you believed what you said, which is...
Oh, I absolutely believe it.
Okay, really?
All 30 seconds of it.
Really?
Yeah.
9th year would be his second year coming off his ACL. And you don't think that he's... Okay. His best football will not come in Tennessee.
Well, I mean, is it his best football? He made 3 Pro Bowls.
Well, that was a sales job.
Yeah, I know. But again, like but I do think he still has 5 years left in this league.
He's athletic enough to get it done.
Yeah, I think he's got 5 years left.
Okay, good job.
It won't be in Tennessee, though. Thank you.
You did well.
Paulie says good job. Okay, Jack. My bad sales job to you is why I'm not prepared, to be honest. I've had a lot on my plate the last couple of weeks.
That's okay.
A lot on my plate.
Sell me this pin.
That what pen? Oh, you're making a comment from the movie.
Yes.
All right, so sell me on why you will not be better if you don't fix your text message.
This is more of a punishment.
This is a punishment.
Okay.
Jack, I'll set the table. Jack is one of the worst millennials.
No.
Jack does not know how to get his iMessages on his MacBook.
I've done everything.
And I have to email him things that I could just simply text him.
He doesn't like it. I know he doesn't.
So, Jack, tell me why fixing your iMessage on your computer doesn't matter and it won't make you better and more efficient.
Are you going to pull this and just text it to me whenever you need something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm starting on your go.
I need iMessages to come through on my computer because it's easy access. My phone's down. My phone's dead.
Time out. You're selling the wrong thing. I said, tell me why it won't make you better.
Oh, why it won't make
yes.
you better. Okay.
Why currently the current situation is better than if it actually worked.
Okay. It won't make me better because it's a new system. Okay. I don't do well with change. All right. I need things my way. It's a traditional way of texting. I don't like typing my text messages. It's a weird feeling to me. And you know what? Maybe my first week when I'm just getting used to it, maybe I text the wrong guy the wrong thing. Maybe I text you something I meant to text my girlfriend, and then that really messes up a work relationship. And then we have to go from there, and then you'll never look at me the same again after you read what I have to say. So I don't want to take that risk and send you something that I meant to send my girlfriend because I'm not used to texting on my computer.
Well, you nailed it in exactly 30 seconds. So that was good execution on that. All right. Who won, Austin or Jack? All you got to do, who won, Austin or Jack? Was it my sales job on why LaJuan's best football is ahead of him, or Jack's on why he doesn't need to fix his iMessaging on his
I like
computer?
Bobby's comment. Austin's just trying to get material for end-of-year performance reviews. I like that. Yeah, he was definitely up to something, Bobby. I'm with you.
Evan says Gentry for the win. Cam says me. So we're 1-1 right now as we await for more comments to come in. Jonathan says, can Jack manage the Titans clock? Which was good. I mean, I don't know did I do good on the clock situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought so.
Yeah. So we both did.
Yeah. You finished early. You finished almost 10 seconds early.
I usually finish early.
Yeah. I bet you do.
I usually, when I don't need all 30 seconds, I don't need to use all 30 seconds. All right. So 2-1 me, 3-1 me, 3-2 with Louis' votes, 4-2 me, 5-2, 6-2, 6-3. Wait, Louis, you can't say both. You can't vote multiple times for either person.
I like Louis, though. He's playing both sides, so he always comes out.
So
on top.
8-3, 9-3. 9-4. Adam makes it 9-5 for me with that vote.
It seems like you got it.
I think I got it.
You got it.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Well,
so
congratulations.
Thank you. I think I did. Hunter says we all lost. If you're in the Titans situation, yeah, no Titans fan is winning this morning. Everybody is upset. But all right, guys, hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully it was a little bit of therapy for everybody after an ugly, bad overtime loss to the Jets. Any parting thoughts?
We got to flush it and move on.
Okay, Jalen Hurts.
The Titans. I mean, that's what they got to. They got to get this out of their system, and they got to get healthy. Tighten Up podcast dropping Wednesday. Going to plug that before I go.
Yep.
We're gonna have a fun guest on this week who has a connection with the Jaguars, so it's a perfect time to get him on. But you got to move on from this. You can't let one loss turn into two. You don't want the Jets to beat you twice, especially when you should have won both. Looking on the schedule, the Jets and the Jags, that's 2 wins. You've already blown one. You can't blow another, especially with the Jags team, who's very distracted this week, who doesn't look like they're,
We don't know the Jags are distracted.
Urban Meyer is clearly distracted.
We know Urban Meyer is distracted.
Urban Meyer is going to be in marriage therapy classes all week.
That was a bad video. It was weird. I woke up Sunday and I was like, why is Urban Meyer trending? And I was like, oh, that's why. All right, guys. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday. Buck Rising live at 10 on the Zone. Also, A to Z Sports Primetime later tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time as Buck travels back from East Rutherford, New Jersey. Don't forget the Mike Vrabel's press conference later on, so we'll have a lot of reaction to that. A2ZSportsNashville.com to read more. Follow us all over the socials, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning.